set?
Good.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. We are live streaming, and I will call the budget hearing and annual meeting to order. I'll read the mission statement and our core values. Together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. We believe that each and every person is capable of success. We believe that each and every person is accepted and valued. We believe in empowering all learners. We believe that change is our opportunity for growth. We believe involved communities foster strong schools. We believe lifelong learning is essential for personal growth, and we believe in cultivating leaders. The district welcome is the next item that you can reference on page 2 of the annual meeting booklet. And for all of these topics, if anyone in attendance wishes to address the assembly as a whole, please adhere to the following guidelines. We'll ask you to stand, state your name and municipality in which you reside. You'll have 5 minutes per topic per person, and matters pertaining to specific individuals or sensitive subjects may be tabled for discussion outside of the public assembly. Next, there's a table of contents for reference and a copy of the agenda that was posted on Friday. Now we'll welcome our Director of Business Services and Operations, Rod Hawkins, and he will present our budget hearing information.
Thanks, Matt. I'll try to project as much as I can. I don't have the booming voice that Matt does, but here we go. The first document that we're going to talk about tonight is the Somerset Budget Planning Calendar. It's kind of some of the key dates that we use to plan the budget. The main things that we want to focus on tonight are the three, 4 things that are coming up in the near future. First thing is the third Friday count in September, and that's where we do our enrollment count to see how much our total enrollment is going to be for the budget. Next key dates are October 15th, when the state equalization aid is certified, as well as the equalized property valuations. Those are the final 3 numbers that we need to complete our budget, and that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss on the budget calendar. And then at page 6 is our budget summary. This budget summary is what was posted to the, published in the last 2 weeks of the newspaper. And I just want to stress this is a preliminary budget. It's, in no way at all being finalized. Budget won't be finalized until October 20th. So just keep in mind this is kind of a rough draft, but it's a pretty good indication of where things might end up. I'd like to focus on the top part of this document, the general fund. That is what affects the tax levy the most. We're looking to increase the local tax levy by approximately $1.1 million. And there's a couple of key reasons for that. The number one reason is the state is not funding us as much. If you look at the state sources, the source 600, last year the state provided almost $11.5 million to the school district. This year they're cutting it down to $10.6 million. And that's due to the way the funding formula works. Since they think Somerset is a property-rich district, they are not funding us as much as they have in the past. So the burden falls onto the local taxpayers for that reason. If we want to look at the special projects funds, that's funds 21, 23, and 29. We primarily use that for our donation account. Athletics gets run through that account. That's all self-sufficient. None of that is run through the levy at all. The next thing that affects the levy, the next most amount is the debt service fund. That's what goes to pay for our current debt that's on the books right now. That's approximately $4 million we're looking to levy this year to pay the debt down. The capital projects funds, that's where our referendum runs through. It's currently in progress. That'll be wiped off the books as at the end of this school year. On the next page, we have the food service account. That doesn't affect the levy at all either. That's all self-sufficient. And then the last one is the community service fund, or call it Fund 80. One of the main things that that's used for is our school age care, is run through that. That's all self-sufficient. And as of last year, we are running our SRO through there and middle school athletics. So last year we asked to levy $140,000 for that, and we're looking to do that again this year. And then if you look, the very bottom here. Yeah, so at the very bottom of this document, the proposed, scroll down a little bit. Yeah, the proposed property tax levy. So this is total, looking to, for the general fund, we're looking to levy for $8.5 million, and the debt service paid on the debt is another $4 million, and $140,000 for the community service fund, for a total of $12 million, almost $12.7 million. That is an increase of about $1.1 million over last year. So like I said, the state is funding us less, $888,000. And if you subtract $888,000 from that $1.1 million, that just gets us to equal to where we were funding the district last year. So all we're asking for is about another $275,000 to help fund salary increases and additional increases in expenses due to inflation. And then next document in here is the budget detail format. It's basically the same thing as the summary, except for it's more expanded, breaks things down a little more, so you could take a deeper dive at it. I'm not going to discuss that too much right now, because you can take a closer look at that if you want to see some of the detail. The next thing, I'm on page 12 of the packet. This discusses our tax levy history. As you can see, the equalized value has been increasing quite a bit over the past few years, and that's why the state is not funding us as much as they have in the past. The key area to look at is that boxed in area. So the general ops, that's our kind of our fund 10, that's $8.7 million we're looking to fund. And the debt service, like I said, $4 million and $140,000 for the community service. And that's looking to increase our mill rate from 6.7 to $7.11. And then if we go to the next page, Alicia, got a little graph about how the mill rate's been trending for the district. If you take a look at that, the mill rate's been going down every year, except for 18-19, it jumped up a little bit, and then a little bit again this year. If you take a look, we're still below every other year for the past 12 years. And if you look at the state average, if you look at the state average for all school districts in the state, that tax levy is a little over $8, so we're still about $1 under what the state average is. And then the next page, page 14, I do want to talk a little bit about the revenue limit. This is another reason why taxpayers are asked to fund the school a little bit more, is they increased the revenue limit, or the amount of money that the school can spend, by $325 per student this year. And in most years, the state will fund that entire amount, or at least a portion of it. And this year, they said, we'll add $325 to the revenue limit, but if you want to spend that extra money, it needs to come from the local taxpayers. The state's not going to fund any of it. If we scroll down to the special education funding, this is where we did get some good news from the state this year. Because in the past couple of years, they've approximately had about 30% that they funded back to special ed. This year, they're looking to increase that to 42%. So that's going to help us cover some of our special ed costs, but it's still not enough to make up for what the state is not paying in other areas. Last part of my discussion is just a little look at what the current referendum debt is out there right now. It's approximately a little over 62 million that we have in debt. And the areas in the green there, that shows the years that debt becomes callable, and that's when we would be looking to make some strategic decisions to try to pay down some of that debt or refinance it and try to save the taxpayers some money at that point. But at this point, this is the end of my discussion unless there's any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Rod? Again, please stand, state your name, municipality, and then you can ask your questions.
I'm Wade Scramstad, the Township of Somerset. I have just some general questions. First of all, thank you for all the work in putting this together. Is the $325 that the state is not funding statewide?
Yes.
Or is that by school district?
That is statewide.
And then the mill rate is based on a property value?
Yes.
And the basis of that, our property value, we've had a lot of housing starts in the town and township. How is that not offsetting if that property values are going up exponentially because of the number of starts, offsetting the mill rate?
It is offsetting it a little bit, but since we're asking, the state's asking the local property taxpayers to fund more of the school district's expenses, it's not enough, the property value is not going up enough to cover all that and keep the mill rate the same.
Yeah, both things happen at the same time. It's a really good question. So as we increase the value and that tax burden is spread over a wider base, that certainly offsets that increase. But the problem is, as we're doing that, the state then at the same time says, but you're property rich, therefore our percentage goes down. So that's why it's not just like a dollar for dollar offset.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ron? Yes, sir.
Louis Germain, Somerset Township. So I got a question. You say the state ain't paying you the same for the school year and stuff. Is your student numbers the same as what they were last year, or are they down from last year? Because that would justify on how much you get from the state.
Yeah, the overall enrollment, we have estimates in the presentation. We'll actually share those during the annual meeting. Year over year, still slightly down. We're graduating more students, so more seniors graduate than we bring in JK. So enrollment is down a bit, certainly. What's happening at the state, it's not just raw dollars, it's the percentage of that. So the revenue limit is the amount that the state, that the formula says, here's the maximum amount of money you can bring in from state and local sources. As we increase our value, that percentage shifts from more from the state. At one point it was about 68%. Now it's down to about 58% is funded from the state. So that's one of the shifts that's happening. But right along with that, as you said, the per pupil amount, if not per pupil amount, but the total amount gathered per pupil because of what's called FTE, or the full-time equivalent, that's the number of students we have. But not just like head count, it's more formulaic than that, but that number has decreased too, so both of those things are impacting.
Well, the one thing to look at too is your students are not going up when you have between the village and township in the last year, 60 new houses, and your numbers ain't growing.
Yeah,
There's a problem.
yeah, there's a lot to that for sure.
Any other questions for Rod? One more time. Any other questions for Rod? So make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. All right, thank you, Rod. At this time, we'll move into the annual meeting. During the annual meeting, we'll be asking for a variety of motions. Anyone in attendance here can make a motion, but when you do, please read it as it's exactly written on the piece of paper you have in front of you. You'll need to state your first and last name, along with your municipality for each motion that you make. Our first task will be to elect a chairperson. So is there a motion for a chairperson?
I, Bruce Blarden, Somerset Township, move to elect Matt Foucault as chairperson of the 2025 Somerset School District Annual Meeting.
Is there a second?
Lori Belargin, Somerset Township, second.
Okay. And then do we take a vote?
Yep.
Do we do a show of hands? How do we typically do it?
You just ask, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to understand the
Okay.
answer.
So there's a motion on the table from Bruce to elect me, Matt Foucault, as the chairperson, a second by Lori Belargin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I will be the chairperson. Yeah, thanks. Alicia, are you filling this out? Do you want me to fill it out as we go?
I got it.
You got it?
I could, yep.
Perfect. All right, our next motion is to elect a teller. Is there a motion?
I, Lori Belargin, Somerset Township, elect Ian McDonald to be our teller.
Is there a second?
Bruce Blarden, Somerset Township.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On page 17 is the treasurer's report. Is there a motion to dispense and approve the treasurer's report? Anybody can make a motion.
I, Bruce Blarden, Somerset Township, move to dispense the reading of and approve the treasurer's report, Somerset School District Annual Meeting.
Is there a second?
I, Lori Belargin.
Second by Lori.
All
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next we'll turn this meeting over to Superintendent Dr. David Grambo, who will review our current enrollment numbers, strategic plan, and district calendar.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so before we get into some of those specifics, I do want to share sort of a state of the district and some highlights for the year, because this is a super important meeting. This is the one opportunity that all members of the electorate get to come and have a voice. And we want to make sure that we're not just talking numbers, you understand the return on investment, because we do appreciate the support and the investment. So if we could go to the presentation, please, Alicia. We're going to run through some highlights, and then after the highlights, Rod, first of all, big thanks to Rod Hawkins, who's done an amazing job. He's been with the district a long time, first year in this role, and has done great work, and it takes a lot to put this all together, so big thanks to Rod. And then, second challenge that Rod had to deal with is I'm new too, so he's had to contend with a lot of questions from me, but we work well together, and it's been a pleasure. But I wanted to share just some highlights so you understand, when we talk about this investment, where does the money go and what are those accomplishments? So first, our 4 defining pillars. So you've seen this before, but this is sort of an overview of our strategic plan. When we make decisions as a district, we follow the strategic plan and we refer back to it, and we'll be building in different mechanisms to do that this year more directly. So we're really looking at what the strategic plan says. So it starts as it should with students. And that's our #1 priority. Everything we do here has to be for students, otherwise we shouldn't be doing it. And so every one of those dollars that we talk about we don't take it lightly when we ask taxpayers to help fund our schools. We take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that we make great decisions and we're good stewards of your financial resources. And we want you to be proud of the investment in the district. So the first thing we do is make sure that we're student-centered. And you can read that, it's sort of hard to read up there, but create an inclusive and supportive and future-ready learning environment. It goes on from there. But to make sure that our students are engaged at high levels and perform at high levels. I'm going to share some highlights that will indicate that that is happening, and we have plans to continue to improve that. None of that happens without staff. They're the motor behind everything that happens for our kids, and we have an outstanding staff that's super dedicated. I've been nothing but impressed with all of my experiences here with staff. They've done great work. And I love the way this has been crafted. You'll see the mirror between creating inclusive, supportive, and future-ready learning environment, creating an inclusive and supportive work environment. A lot of the dollars that go into a school budget are about staff. We're a people business. About 80% of our total budget goes to staff. And we also have an issue in education that is not just Somerset, not just Wisconsin, but throughout the nation, where recruiting and retaining great teachers is becoming increasingly challenging. So part of this budget is an investment in them, making sure that we take good care of those folks and that they can be upfront, have an understanding what their compensation would look like, what their benefits would look like, not at the end of the year with leftovers, but upfront with a strategic budget. So that gets us to operations. So uphold operational excellence. As I said, we take that very seriously. When people talk about, does this community support its schools, the answer is a resounding yes. And all you have to do is look at the facilities and look at the product, look at the students, look at the staff to know we're very supported. And it's okay if we're gonna disagree on issues specific to school funding or even what we do in schools, that's fine. High level engagement is important. So big thank you for being here, taking the time, there's at least one Vikings fan back there, but taking the time out on Monday Night Football, thank you for being here because that demonstrates engagement too. So we really appreciate it. And tonight's meeting, for the most part, is really about operations. We're talking about how do we fund our schools. So your interest in that is important to us and we do appreciate it. And then finally, community, and it starts with families. We value our families to a high degree and we want to make sure that we continue to express that, and we're super clear with how much we appreciate the partnership. We can't do anything without a strong partnership between our school and families, and we're going to continue to strengthen that. And then the community at large too. This is one of those meetings, we talk about stakeholder groups, like the stakeholders, the people that make decisions. This is one of those times when all community members have a voice in this process. Regardless if you have kids in the district or not, your voice is important here. This is a time when we need to engage the entire community because we all chip in. That's the whole premise of public schools, is an understanding that a strong public school system doesn't just benefit families and the students, it benefits the entire community. And that's why we're here tonight. So, student achievement celebrations. I talked about return on investment. We're at the 83rd percentile in overall student achievement. That means you take all the 420 districts in the state of Wisconsin, we perform better in achievement, better than 83% of those districts. That is remarkable. The best part about that though, I haven't talked to one person in this district that says, and that's good enough. That's not the mentality here. We want to continuously improve. We're going to be doing some benchmarking against other districts to make sure that we do continuously improve. Couple other sub-statistics, that's the 6th highest in CISA 11, there are 39 districts, 6th highest on all that. Our belief about all means all is shining through and it's demonstrated across the board. Also want to highlight our special education programs are doing great work and supporting all students. So there's a lot of really great stuff there. So that's achievement. Now we talk about 100% 2025 graduation rate. That might not sound like a big deal on the surface, but it really is. The number one thing we can do to ensure success when students leave our system is that they graduate. We have high graduation standards. If a student successfully completes the program and they move on, they're going to be well equipped to find a path that's successful for them. That's huge. Our absentee rates are very low. Our on track for graduation, which takes in a couple different factors, is very high. What does that tell us? It tells us we're engaging our students. One of the number one measures you can look for on engagement is, are the kids showing up? If they're showing up, we can do a lot of great things. If they're not here, that's a problem, right? These numbers tell us that that is working. And then what are we doing about really returning the investment directly back to families? 26.5% of our students are involved in advanced courses in high school. That is not just a celebration of high school, that's a celebration of our JK through 12 system, because students don't walk into freshman year ready for advanced courses. You don't suddenly become a sophomore and say, you know what, I'm going to try AP Physics. That doesn't happen. It's an investment that starts very early on, and those numbers are really impressive. You can see some of the subheadings, over 6% higher than the state average. Most of the districts that have numbers like this are much larger than us. We go out of our way to try to find opportunities to get kids involved in advanced classes. Some of that costs money, there's an investment in that, but it saves a ton of money for the kids because they can earn college credit when they're in high school. We'll talk about some of those examples. That's great for families and great for kids. So now some highlights, elementary highlights. You may have heard about Act 20. Act 20 was legislation that was passed that was focused on improving literacy rates with our youngest learners to align our instruction to the science of reading. The elementary school here went all in on that. They went beyond the training requirements, so all teachers of literacy at the elementary school are trained with some really robust training, and we're not done yet. We're going to continue to do that work because it really does pay. The neat thing about that professional learning opportunity it's not about like, here's how you implement a curriculum and these are the steps. It's how do you know what students need in the next level of their development as a reader. It's some of the most powerful professional learning that you can have for any teacher that helps kids learn how to read, and that is our #1 priority. If we said what's the #1 priority, you strip all the details away, it's helping kids read. We know that increases their chance of success more than anything else we can do. So that is definitely a highlight. They had a new math resource at the elementary, and it's being received really, really well by teachers, and it's yielding great results. You can see 61.9% of our students are proficient or advanced in the Wisconsin Forward Math Assessment. That those numbers sometimes get skewed because you say, well, 61.9%, what about the other 38.1%? Hope I got that math right, we're talking about math. When we're talking about 62% of our kids proficient in math, that puts us really high in terms of percentile in the state. Those are impressive rates, and again, no one's saying that's enough, we're gonna keep on going. Now the middle school, also big gains in literacy. I love that picture, a bunch of kids, it's sort of a Where's Waldo picture because most of the kids look really engaged. I'm not gonna hold it there, there's one that maybe doesn't look as engaged. It's a great picture. But you can see that investment has paid off. An improvement in 7.7% of the students proficient in English language arts year over year. Every one of those students that's represented in that percentage, that's a path for success that they didn't have before. That's huge. And then it's happening in math too, so big gains in middle school math. Middle school is really hitting it out of the park when it comes to student achievement, a lot of really great stuff. You can see that increase that we saw in math, it's all paying off. Let's talk about the high school a little bit. So we talked before about advanced classes. Love that picture too. So we have a bunch of kids that are doing really well in AP. When we talk about AP, advanced placement classes, there's two things we look at. One is how many kids are taking advanced placement classes. To me, that's the most important measure. A passing score is great, but what we know is if a child takes a college level class while in high school, the likelihood of them finding success in their post-secondary path, whether that's technical school, whether that's directly on the job, or that's a 4-year university or military, whatever it is, having that rigorous experience in high school helps prepare them. I'm in the process of reading with all the elementary kids, and one of the messages I'm talking about is failing forward. The idea that it's okay to meet failure, because that means we pushed ourselves to that limit, and if we help our kids experience that positively, they're gonna be more prepared. It's the same thing with kids at AP. If they try that, and even if it doesn't work out, just giving it a try makes a big difference. But there's a lot more to that. But we've had 73% of students who took an AP exam scored 3 or higher. The average over the last 4 years was 55. That's impressive, big gains. And lots of credits. We talked about all the ways students can earn credits. There was 1,126.5 credits earned last year in that one academic year. Every one of those credits earned, that's money kids don't have to spend when they're in college on tuition. You can see all of the different partnerships we have from college and schools to Northwoods, whether kids are going to Northwoods or we have our teachers teaching the classes here. Lots of opportunities. The high school's done really good work of continually finding more and more opportunities to get kids involved, but not only to get them involved, to have them experience success at a high level. That is something we should all be proud of. Another thing I wanted to mention, a big thank you to mentors. So being a teacher is certainly a challenging job. One way we help new teachers navigate that is by having mentors in place. So that's a picture of this year's mentors. The placards they're holding, that would be like if you are picked up from the airport, that's the name of their new teacher that was greeted and supported. And our mentors, the smiles and the positivity on those first couple of days was outstanding. New teachers can't find the success that they do if they don't have positive role models and mentors. So big thank you to them. And there are our new teachers. That's when they're all together. We had a nice bus tour. Sarah was our host, so Sarah Eichten gave us a tour of the district on the bus, learned a lot about the district, and had a great lunch, but more importantly, a lot of great learning. They learned about our priorities, they learned about our initiatives, they learned how they can get support and how they can find success and find this to be a great place to work. So, and they really are a wonderful crew. And an individual call out. Kristen Kraft, a high school special education teacher, was recognized as Outstanding Special Education Teacher of the Year for CISA 11. No surprise, if we go 2 slides back, there she is as a mentor. So she's giving back and finding great success, so we're very proud of her. Now, quickly, we're gonna talk about the arts and athletics a little bit, because why is that? We said reading is our #1 priority. Is there a link between the arts and athletics and reading and math? Absolutely there is. One of the things that we know is if kids have something that they really look forward to get to school, their chance of finding success is far greater. We want every student to have that thing that gets them out of bed and says, yup, I'm looking forward to going to school because I've got that one thing. For some kids, it's just the classes they take. They love school, that's great, that's awesome. That's not everyone. Some kids need something else, something extra. It's our job to keep on adding programs until every single kid has something that says, that's why I love being in the Somerset schools. So a couple highlights, high school band went to Florida for a recording workshop. They didn't just go to Disney to go to Disney. They learned about high-tech recording, which is super cool, an experience you can't get. Huge success. Jazz band and show choir, great end of the year showcase. And high school drama department, Annie the Musical and Partridge in a Pear Tree, some great pictures there. We're gonna talk a little bit about construction at the end, and those pictures will look different the next time we see them. Also, we had the 2025 Fine Arts Festival. There was a crew that went to the Chanhassen to see Grease and learned a lot. Okello Sam, that's someone that I know and I've worked with in my previous district. Great inspiration. He helps kids find the joy in music, and he was with us and helped kids find that joy as well. And then the 3rd grade, I love that picture in the upper left-hand corner. 3rd grade students love learning the ukulele. So super cool programs for our kids. Athletics and activities, boys soccer, 2024 conference champs. Boys hockey, 2025 sectional champs. Cheer, state champ in non-tumble and state runner-up in game day performance. Girls hockey, 24-25 conference champs. Girls softball, 2025 conference champs. A lot of success, didn't stop there. These are individual student accomplishments. 4 track athletes qualified for state, several academic all-stars, numerous middle border all-conference, couple all-state selections for their respective sports, couple of athletes earned the senior all-star team nominations. Our robotics team, we saw a picture of them earlier, and there they are again. Sent 3 teams to state. Dance sent 1 athlete to state. Band, music, and forensics each had several students make it to state and place. A lot of individual student success, finding something that they love in our school. And then there was a lot of construction too. There's some before and after pictures. Up at the top you can see there's, it's actually I guess after before pictures, so you can see the track investment again. Thank you. Supporting the referendum that helped build and improve our facilities is greatly appreciated. We're super excited. The bottom is all about the PAC to be able to open that up. And have the entire community enjoy that facility. When we talk about something like a PAC, it certainly doesn't come without a sizable price tag. We get that, we understand that. But what we also know is that investment will pay off for generations, literally generations. That will be paid off, and there will still be generations of kids and community members enjoying that facility. And it truly will be for the entire community. We look forward to getting lots of different folks in that facility. Please join us September 27th as the grand opening for that. It should be a great event. All right, done with that. And now, so I started with that, and now we're gonna get 101 on school budget. So Rod talked a lot about school budget and a lot of numbers. I wanna take just a step back and go up 40,000 feet level to talk about what all those numbers mean. This will be quick, don't worry. So first, we've got funds that drive the budget. We're gonna focus on Fund 10 is the largest driver of the budget. That's the general fund. Most things we do in a school come out of that, but we also have the other funds, and this is not an exhaustive list. There's more than this. Fund 39 is a big one because that's our payment on debt. So when you have a referendum passed, you assume that debt, and then you pay that off on a scheduled way. That comes out of Fund 39. We talked about the Community Service Fund. We'll talk about that a little bit more. That's Fund 80. And then Special Education Fund 27, not levied special. That's actually more of a holding point where all special education funds go through. There's some federal dollars that come into that, some state, and then a lot that we pay for out of local sources as well. So we talked about levy, levy, levy. What does that mean? The levy is the amount that we ask taxpayers to fund to support our school. It comes from a couple different areas. We're gonna focus on three, the first three, because the last one isn't all that important for us. So first of all, there's the revenue limit. In 1993, the state implemented revenue limits, which was a formula that said, this is as much as you can spend to fund your schools without going to referendum. And then that formula helps us figure out how much of that pie graph is state and how much is local. We talked about that earlier. The more value you have per member or per student, the higher that value is, the more of the funding is a local responsibility. The formula is designed to say, let's find property-rich districts and make sure that they're paying the majority of that school funding, but property-poor districts, then that they get more support from the state. That's why it's called equalization aid. It's meant to equalize that support in a meaningful way. That bar graph on the right, the bright blue is, that's us, that's Somerset. The bright blue is the revenue limit over time. You can see that it climbed, and then from about 2020, sort of steady. I mean, there's some variability there, but sort of steady. And then you can see the Fund 39 that Rod was talking about, that's the payment on debt. I want to point out there's this little, oh, it works, a little magenta stripe up there. That was the Fund 80 levy that was added for the first time last year. So that's a look at what's that composition when we say total levy. What does that look like? The question came up earlier from a gentleman about our FTE or our student count. So this is our revenue limit average FTE. That's a lot of words. What that essentially means is how does the state really look at the number of students we have in our school? They don't come and count every student and say this is how many students. There's a lot more that goes into it. For instance, when we run summer school, we get credit, FTE credit for students attending summer school. So even though it's not more students, it's more state aid because that number goes up. Open enrollment plays into that in various ways. So a lot of complexity in that formula, but it does closely mimic. We very rarely will see that go up and not see student enrollment, actual head count go up at the same time, but there is some variability. You can see over time what was happening, dropping pretty considerably, and then a little bit of an increase. Most of that increase is not actually head count. The head count has not been going up. Those are the other things that we talked about. That's the number that the state plugs right into their spreadsheet to say this is how much money you're getting. And then there's the revenue limit over time. I mentioned earlier that if we look at that revenue limit over time, right there from 2020 to 2025, it's been sort of flat at about between 56 and 58% is from the equalization aid. That's the percentage that the state is covering. But you can see back in 2016, 68, 66, 64, 62, it started to decrease and more burden on the local taxpayers. That sort of flattened out in terms of the total percent. As you all know, you're all paying bills and taking care of your household, things got more expensive. So even though that percentage has stayed the same, the amount has not. There were questions about equalized value and mill rate. So Rod was talking about mill rate and how it's changed. If we look at this graph, this is our mill rate over time, and this includes revenue limit and Fund 80 and Fund 39. We only have Fund 80 in that 1 year when we levied for Fund 80 for the first time. But you can see that it has dropped significantly, and it's no surprise that it's a mirror image of this. This graph is our equalized value over time. Equalized value is the number the state uses to say how much value do you actually have in your district. The reason that's called equalized is because some of you live in the village, some in the township, some in St. Joe. Every township, municipality, rather not township, every municipality has its own tax structure. So when they equalize, you might see that the village doesn't go up, but if you live in the township, that could have jumped significantly. We equalize that, and these are the numbers that look at that, but you can see it's been a steady climb. I mean, that's a good picture for the health of our district financially. We want to see the property value increase because that spreads that tax burden over a larger base. And then there's just a quick look at mill rate, Middle Border Conference. It's all districts there except for Altoona. For whatever reason, the resource that we use to get these numbers, it's because I think it's only the number of districts they allow in this comparison, but Altoona's in our district. Sorry, Altoona, but you're not on our graph. You can see we are higher in mill rate last year than only 2 districts, and the rest are higher than we were. Rod mentioned this before, but the proposed mill rate for us, with the proposed budget that administration is recommending, would result in a mill rate of 7.11. Mill rate means the amount of money you could expect to be taxed on $1,000 worth of property value. So another way to look at that would be to say, so for every 100,000, and not because we believe that home values are around 100,000, it's an easy number to ramp up based on your property value. So that's the best way to look at that in terms of that total impact. But that 7.09, that was the average last year for the state. Going into next year, it's projected at over 8. So our proposed mill rate would still be close to $1 less than the state average. And then this last slide, and then I'm really done on this. So the last slide. If the state formula for revenue limit had kept up with inflation since 2009, on average, states in Wisconsin would be receiving $3,380 per pupil more. If that were the case, we wouldn't have been talking about a referendum a few years ago. If that were the case, we wouldn't be talking about the $1.4 million in cuts that we made a few years ago. That wouldn't have happened if that were the case. And that's not to blame anyone, but that's just the reality. We know things are more expensive. We know inflation has been an issue for a while and got kind of out of control there for a while too. But that when people say the state funding formula is broken, that's usually what they're talking about. I would argue the state funding formula is not broken. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do. We might disagree with what it's designed to do, but it's doing what it's designed to do, and you can see how that impacts us as local taxpayers. So that's all I have for that presentation, and we're ready to go into some of the other slides here. So if we go back to the booklet. Almost there we go. So this is a look at our enrollment, but it's an interesting enrollment because it's unofficial head count. We're trying to give you apples to apples. So when we say unofficial head count, that literally is the number of students we have in our school at a point in time. That starts back in 2018-19, so you can see in 18-19 we were at 15-13, climbed up to the highest that we will see on this chart at 15-20 in 19-20, and then you can see those numbers decrease over time. If you can scroll down to the next one. If we just go year over year, you can see that 1454 and 1439. So we were at 1454 at this point, approximately this point last year. Right now, unofficially at 1439. We track this on a daily basis. We get emails every day about additions and withdrawals. It tends to level out soon, but there's still a lot of change. Early September is still a lot of volatility with that number. There's 2 ways to look at enrollment. One is, how many kids do you have that were, say, 2nd graders last year and are 3rd graders this year? When we look at that, we're looking at changes in that cohort of kids. That number is climbing slightly, but we're graduating far more than we're bringing in in the early grades. That's why that overall number is going down. We did engage in a population study last year. They are suggesting we should expect flat, if not slight increase, but nothing significant. Enrollment's important to us. It funds so much it's such a big part of the funding formula that we track it very carefully, and we want to be strategic, especially when it comes to open enrollment. We want all resident students here to say, you know what, this is the district I live in and this is the district I want to attend. And we'll keep on working on that until we get to that point. We talked about this, so we won't go in any more on the strategic plan because I talked about that previously. And there is the school calendar. Between school lunches and school calendar, number 1 and number 2 hits on our website, super important. So we talked about our school calendar. One thing that I would say about the school calendar that I'm impressed with, it prioritizes professional learning. There is a lot of time for teachers to collaborate and learn together, and that's important. We know that when we learn more, our students learn more, and that is represented in that calendar. So I think I'm almost done talking. I am done talking. So what questions do you have on any of that?
I have a question. Excuse me, Marie Colbert, thank Joel. We sat through 25, 28, 30 years of annual meetings. This is by far the best presentation I've ever sat through. Rob, awesome job. I know you worked with Baird to put this together. I wondered why. Excellent. Your focus on what our goals are in student learning makes it far easier to accept and adjust to the reduction in state, federal and state revenues coming into us. It's easier to support that when I see the improvement in the achievement that we got there. Last year, that was one of my questions at the annual meeting. Where is the focus on student achievement? Thank you for stressing what we have to be proud of, and that will help increase enrollment. Hudson also has a decrease in enrollment. Every school district does in the state. Thank you for your clarity, for your stressing of the positive, and for pointing out what we have to be grateful for, what we have to look forward to. We still have work to do, absolutely. But you made it much more understandable why we need more local tax dollars. We're a wealthy district. Oh my goodness, that's a shock to me, but.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Grambo? No? All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the resolution approval. Starts on page 21 if you want to turn to that. Now again, this is open for anyone in attendance to make a motion or read the resolution and a second. We encourage your participation. Just remember, please, you do have to live in a municipality that is within our district. So if you're here from somewhere else, please withhold from voting on this. If you are in favor, I'd ask you to stand, state your name, your municipality that you live in, and then read that resolution word for word as it is presented. Alicia will take your name as the motion, we'll need a second, and then there'll be a vote to follow. Does anybody want to begin with the authorization to acquire real estate?
I will. Ashley Cochran, Sharpsburg Township. And do I read the resolution?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Resolution, be it resolved that the school board of the school district of Somerset is authorized during the 25-26 school year to acquire real estate. For my friend here, can you say school if recorded? No.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Travis Shockner, Township of Somerset, second.
Okay. And then did we offer a discussion? Or is it just straight to a vote?
I'd like to discuss it. I have a question.
Any discussion? Sure.
What property, is there property that you're looking at? So this is just a technicality, so tell everyone.
If something,
that's-
yeah, if something would
Should
come up,
something come up,
it's,
yeah.
you're pre-authorized that it could happen, but yeah, we don't have eyes on any property at this point.
Okay, there's a motion, there's a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next one, looking for a motion to designate sites for district buildings and provide for the erection of suitable school buildings.
Hannah Lammers, Somerset Township. Be it resolved that the school board of the school district of Somerset is authorized during the 2025-2026 school year to designate sites for district buildings and provide for the erection of suitable school buildings.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Iyer Johnson, Township.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next one is a motion to direct and provide for the prosecution and defense of legal procedures. Is there a motion?
Patty Forsberg, Village of Somerset. Be it resolved, the Board of the School District of Somerset is authorized during the 2025-2026 school year to direct and provide for the prosecution defense of legal procedures.
Is there a second?
Amy Blorgen, Township of Somerset.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next one is for school board expenses. Is there a motion?
Kathy Brackey, Township of St. Joe, be it resolved by the electors of the school district of Somerset that the Somerset School Board during the 2025-26 school year shall be reimbursed for actual and necessary expenses for travel when required.
The motion, is there a second?
I, Tyler Belargin, Township of Somerset, second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the approval of proposed 2025-2026 budget tax levy. Is there a motion?
Lacey Oster, Somerset Township, be it resolved that there shall be levied upon the taxable property of the school district of Somerset the tentative sum of $8,479,189 for the purpose of defraying the operation and maintenance of the public schools for the 25-26 school year. The projected all funds mill rate shall be $7.11 per 1,000 value.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'm Brenda Forrest, Village of Somerset, second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is a policy on the disposal of unwanted equipment and supplies. Is there a motion?
Sarah Eichten, Township of Somerset, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the School District of Somerset is authorized during the 2025-2026 school year to sell and dispose of any tangible personal property belonging to the school district that is determined by the administration to be no longer needed for school purposes.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I, Deb Kohler, Village of Somerset, second that.
Question on that one.
Yes, discussion.
Where is that advertised? Because I know we don't have room here to store, so there's gonna be some dispersal of stuff. Where is that displayed or let people know?
District website, I hear.
I'm gonna go with what Lori said.
Always a good one.
District website, Lauren? Okay.
In the past, Joe Letter Township or something, in the past when the things have come up, I know they went to like municipal auction sites.
Oh.
And they've been like
Yep.
advertised on our website, like, hey, you can go here and bid.
I just think it's great.
surplus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we've had like a garage sale.
Discussion?
Katie Griffey, Village of Somerset. Is there any possibility of like reusing stuff? Like I know like Larry Forest, they have like no swing. So if there was like playground equipment, is there like a possibility of like moving them to our like town parks?
Yeah, we could certainly look into anything that has, we don't want to dispose of anything that still has value. So yeah, that's something we could explore for sure.
Any further discussion? All right, there's a motion, there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next one is for school board salaries. Is there a motion?
Joe Letter Town of Somerset, be it resolved by the electors of Somerset School District of Somerset, that all board members will receive $70 per meeting in which they are in attendance, work session, regular session, special session, and policy committee meetings.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Debbie Belargin, Township of Somerset, and I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Annual meeting date. One thing I'll just add in here, instead of the District Learning Center, we are gonna move this to the Performing Arts Center next year. So if whoever makes that motion, if you could change that to reflect the Performing Arts Center as a location.
So you can all
Sure.
bring 10 friends next year.
Will that be in October then? Is that right?
Nope, the date is right in there, September 14th.
Okay, oh, but at the
Next year.
ceremony is on the 27th, right? So you'll have.
Oh yeah, that's for this
year,
year, that's
next
this
year.
September. So this is actually approving next year's
okay.
date for this meeting.
Yeah, this same meeting next year. Is there a motion?
Eric Johnson, Starbury Township, be it resolved that the School District of Somerset School Board is authorized to hold the 2026 annual school district meeting on Monday, September 14th, 2026, at 7 p.m. in the, where?
Performing Arts Center.
Performing Arts Center.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Kenny Forsberg, Village Somerset, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And the last one, this is to adjourn the Somerset School District 2025 annual meeting. Is there a motion?
Travis Shockner, Township of Somerset. I, Travis Shockner, move to adjourn the 2025 Somerset School District annual meeting.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second that.
Alicia, do you name?
What, first name?
Karen, but it's spelled weird. It's C-A-R-Y-N, I'm really sorry.
Thank you. No apologies necessary.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is adjourned at 7:55. Thank you,
I know, it's
everyone.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. What do we do to the chairs? Do you need them anywhere?